Afternoon, everybody. Nice to be with you. So today I promised that I would give you some helpful responses for when the topic of evolution is discussed among you and your friends. Last time we looked at creation and what our belief in creation, that God has created the world, has on our lives, and how it makes us behave in a certain way, not taking the law into our own hands. And we discussed transgenderism and all those things at the end of the talk last time. Now we're going to look at evolution and how that is going to impact on our lives if we believe it's over and against creation, the fact that God created the world. So with evolution, always remember when you're in discussion with your friends and the topic comes up that we're talking about a hypothesis. And a hypothesis is when we assume that something has happened, such as evolution, to use it as a basis for reasoning about how things appear to be around us. What do I mean by that? So we look at and we see imprinted on that stone a creature in the past, now extinct, but with features similar to creatures we see around us now. And we begin to argue from the way they compare the creature imprinted on the stone and living creatures that all human life has evolved from previous forms of life that are now extinct, which have gone out of being because they were replaced by more efficient forms of life that were better adapted to living on Earth. And that's what evolution is. The survival, they say, of the fittest. So you look at a giraffe and you see that its long neck has lengthened over time in order to help it to eat leaves from tall trees. That's how the theory goes. And it seems very logical. But it is only a hypothesis. And as people say, the jury is still out as to whether evolution is a fact or not. Although many scientists are convinced that it is a fact and talk as if it is a fact, but we mustn't be deceived by this. The real state of play about the whole thing is that it is a hypothesis, that it's a theory, that it's not fact as yet. Maybe in the future. And from the point of view of us Catholics and the Catholic Church, God, we say, could have arranged creation to evolve in this way. So evolution is a possibility, but not an actuality. And if you look at standard evolutionary theory, which is the ideas that are acceptable by the vast majority of scientists about evolution, they call it standard evolutionary theory, that has changed over and over again since Charles Darwin first proposed the first standard evolutionary theory in the 1850s. It's adapted itself over the years. It's evolved as it talks about theory of evolution. Well, the theory itself is evolving over the years. So we don't know how it's going to evolve in the future. So the best thing the church can say at the moment is that this theory is the best explanation We have up to this point. But who knows how things will change in years ahead? It might be completely thrown out. We don't know. It might be proved to be true. But at this moment in time, we haven't got all the information that we need to make a judgment about that. So you might say, why is there all this fuss about evolution being opposed to religion, that evolution and religion are in conflict? On the one side, you have the creationists, the one who support the idea that God created the world instantaneously, and the evolutionists, two camps completely opposed to each other. How can this be so if it is possible that God could have chosen to create things by means of evolution? The problem arises with this. The conflict between evolution and religion comes when people use the theory of evolution to eliminate God as creator and substitute his creative action with blind chance. There are in science people who would want to do that, to eliminate the whole possibility of God creating, that it's all a product of blind chance, that forces came together and we have all ended up here as a result of pure chance. Charles Darwin, and most of his followers down to the present, seek to do just this, to eliminate God from the debate at all. That's where the conflict arises. Not that the church is saying that evolution is totally not true. The church doesn't say that. It's saying it's a possibility. But scientists, on the other hand, want to eliminate the possibility of God entirely as a justification for atheism. And that's where the problem arises. It's people being not really looking at the facts properly and indulging in what people call scientism instead of science. Scientism is the belief that science can explain everything when it can't. Science could only explain the material world. It can't explain what is beyond the material world. That's the province of theology and revelation, God and angels and spirits and the whole world that is beyond the material reality. Science cannot deal with that because its parameters are the material world that we see and feel, touch, smell. So Darwin went from being a devout Anglican at first when he began his explorations and his travels on the ship called the Beagle. He was a very devout Anglican at first and considered training for the ministry in the Anglican Church, but eventually became an agnostic and an atheist because of his studies. That's where his studies led him. So let's look at this, what they're saying, that if creation, the universe, is a product of a chance combination of forces, what does that imply for how I live my life? It would first of all mean that my life has no meaning at all. I am not part of God's plan, as we say. And it's up to me to give a meaning to my life. We see this all around us, don't we? That people give meaning to their lives by pursuing a career, by making money, by having as much pleasure as possible, having as much power as possible. These are the things that a lot of people see as giving meaning to their lives, because there's no meaning in terms of God, because God doesn't exist. That we're all here as a result of pure chance. So that's the first thing. It would mean that my meaning had no real overarching meaning. I would have to give a meaning to my life myself. It would also mean that the Christian morality that I follow and you follow is no better than any other morality that anyone else follows. And that could include people like Stalin and the terrible things that he did, and Hitler and the terrible things that he did. All moralities would be on the same level playing field. You could take whichever one you wanted. It would all be down to preference, to what makes me happy, I suppose. I might prefer Christian ethics to any other, but they are no more right than any other in real terms. Evolution, if everything is the product of pure chance, it also means that the human soul is no more important or different than the soul of an ape. Now, as Catholics, we believe that each human soul is individually created by God at the moment of conception. And this is a revealed truth, and that it's immortal. Remember what Genesis says about creating Adam. He breathed the breath of life into him. At that point, he's giving his divine life to Adam, making him a human person. Now, if the soul emerges naturally, like in any other animal, like an ape or a horse or whatever animal you can think of, they all have souls, but they don't have immortal souls. We are saying that we do have an immortal soul. So if everything is a product of chance, my human soul is on the same level as every other animal's soul. There's no real difference. It's not immortal. When I die, that's it. So you could ask, does evolution really contradict the idea of God creating everything? Or the truth that God created everything? It is. Well, yes and no is the answer to that. No, because God created the universe at the beginning of time. So there was nothing apart from God. There was God and nothing else. Then he created, and time and space began. That's what Genesis tells us. So in the beginning, there was nothing from which creation could evolve from. So evolution certainly isn't true in terms of the creation of the whole of the universe. That can't be true. I mean, some of the scientists talk about multiverses and that this universe has come out of a multiverse. Well, if that's true, you've got to say, again, this is a hypothesis. If you say that, then you've got to ask yourself, well, who created the multiverse? And if that came from another multiverse, who created that? So it's just putting the question of who created everything back another step. But there's got to be an uncreated first cause, which is bringing everything into being from the beginning of time. But if we're thinking about human life within the universe, God may have chosen, and this is the church's position, to create human life within the universe by means of evolution. He could have decided to do that. Because as Catholics, we are not fundamentalists in that we say, oh, When God created, it was in 7 literal days. We do not hold to that. We hold that Genesis is a poetic way of saying the central truth that God has created everything from nothing. Before creation, there was nothing, and God created it. So those 7 days can poetically be said to stand for millions and even billions of years as creation has slowly come to be what it is now through the process of evolution. This is a possibility. But equally, God could have created everything directly. At the present state, neither science or theology can give certain answers to these 2 options. Therefore, the church does not take any position on this. It simply says evolution is the best explanation so far. But we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And the church would say the human body also could have evolved or been created directly. 2 options, just like creation, the human body could have evolved or it could have been created directly by God. Because God created the whole universe instantaneously, we know that. So why not the human body also? Why does it have to have evolved from apes, for example? It could be either. But when we get to the human soul, everything changes. It is a revealed truth, as I said, when God breathed the breath of life into Adam, that the soul is a direct creation by God. Therefore, it can't be seen or be said to have evolved from anything else. It's a direct intervention by God, instantly created. So we've got 2 different classes of thing here, haven't we? We've got the spiritual soul and we've got the material world. We've got the human body, which is material, and animating that material body is an immortal soul. My soul and my body are 2 different classes of thing. Therefore, a spirit can't evolve from matter. My soul can't evolve like when I was conceived in my mother's womb. The soul wasn't something that evolved as my body evolved in my mother's womb, as it grew in my mother's womb. At the moment of conception, then God intervened directly to make me who I am. Gave me my human soul, my immortal soul at that point. Because look at it like this. When we're talking about spirit, we're meaning things like my capacity to think. The fact that I've got consciousness. Nobody in science has been able to understand or explain the mystery of human consciousness. The fact that I can reason is a spiritual capacity. And the fact that I'm self-aware, I am aware of myself, I can step back from myself and analyze myself in a way that no ape or fish or they just do not act in that way. But I do because I think and you think. These are all spiritual qualities, attributes that we possess. They're not material in any way. I can be and am aware of the whole universe just by thinking about it in an instant of thought. And you can do that as well, Just think about the whole universe now in your mind, and it's there, isn't it? Therefore, my mind, because it's got the capacity to do that, to think about the whole of the universe in an instant, it cannot be a part of that universe because it can encompass the entire universe in an instant in the human mind. Because it's spiritual. To know a thing is to be separate from it. Or we use the word transcendent. It transcends the whole thing you're thinking about. If I think about a bike, I'm not part of that bike, am I? Same way, if I think about the universe, I'm not part of that universe. My soul is something of a different kind. It's a different class of thing, which is separate and spiritual from the material world. So the human mind transcends the universe because it is aware of it. The human mind knows the universe, and therefore it's spiritual, not material. Therefore, it cannot have evolved in any way from anything else. There wasn't a sort of a more simple version of the human mind that the present human mind has evolved from. The human mind just is, and it has these capacities of, as I said, thought, consciousness, reason, and self-awareness. All these things are spiritual and not material. And that's the mystery. Therefore, it's spiritual. Therefore, it cannot evolve from matter, material things in the universe, because it can apprehend and encompass the entire universe within the human mind. We can do that. Therefore, it must be created by the Supreme Spirit. Because it's spiritual, it is a spirit, it must be created directly by the Supreme Spirit, who is God. So the human soul is the one area where the church is saying that all the research about evolution, whether it's true or not, must be reconciled to the reality of the human soul as a spiritual reality that is immortal. And that's the task of the years ahead. There's a lot of work to do. The church is being very wise and saying, at this moment in time, evolution is giving us the best explanation of how the material world has come to be as it is at the moment. But we wait to see what science will reveal in the future as it goes on in its investigations. But ultimately, it will be reconciled with what has been revealed by God to us, that God is the creator of the universe, and that we are called to life with him forever through Jesus Christ. So that's all for today. So that's some helpful pointers. When you're in a conversation about evolution, always hold on to the fact. Don't be bludgeoned by people saying, well, this is all proved. It's not. It's a hypothesis. And hold fast to that. Listen to this again, just to prepare yourself for those situations when you find yourself having to talk about evolution and defend it from a Catholic point of view. God bless you, and we'll talk again on Friday.
Thank you.